Coming up in news tonight, widespread damage in Andros and Grand Bahama. Impacted residents tell their stories. The Prime Minister calls the aftermath of the storm a national disaster. And the leader of the opposition calls for a united effort in rebuilding and restoration. Welcome to our news. I'm Dana Smith. Thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight, two of the islands hardest hit by Hurricane Matthew contain communities which have been devastated. Tonight, we have first-hand accounts from residents in Grand Bahama and Andros who lost everything in the storm. Residents from both islands were visited by Prime Minister Perry Christie and NEMA officials yesterday. Our Jasmine Brown has their harrowing tales of survival in this report.
The first stop on the trip this morning was Andros, where the devastation was obvious, but the spirits of residents who lost everything remained high. The most devastated part of that island was Low Sound, North Andros, where officials say a sea surge of more than 8 feet decimated coastal homes as it pushed its way nearly 2 miles inland, snapping power lines and uprooting large trees. According to Island Administrator Ivan Ferguson, the devastation has left him unable to sleep for 3 days. The first sign of trouble as the storm slammed into Andros was an ominous one.
When we went into the community after the debris was moved, the first sign of devastation was the graveyard. We actually saw coffins that were uprooted out of the grave. And this was due to the heavy, strong, fierce, furious surge.
Ferguson says it was worse than anyone could have ever imagined, and that was made painfully clear as officials headed into Low Sound to find catastrophic damage to every home in that community. They would also find a beloved lifelong member of the community had died during the storm. Officer in charge of the Andros district, Bruce Arnett, showed this video of him pleading with 75-year-old Holland Evans hours before the storm hit.
We spoke to Hewlin, and I pleaded with him. I said, Hewlin, man, let's come out of this thing. You're right on the very out now. And I show him, I said, the storm is going to come right up.
This is the job of interview.
Well, it's a dangerous storm, all right? But low side can't sink because of when the water come in and low side, it can't back up. See, there ain't no way, any way the water could back up. When the water comes in the creek here, it goes straight around, goes straight out on the west side of it.
But that did not happen, and Evans would die in his wife's arms in what authorities suspected was a heart attack. His wife, Bernice Evans, explained the moment.
The water was coming through the front door, and we had it board up. The board been break loose from it, and it was coming through the front door and the next window to the front door, and he was trying to nail it back, and the nails wouldn't take, and he just said his heart was hurting him. And he told me to go in the next room and get up on something high, and I did, and his niece came and said, something wrong with you, and he fall down. And when I come out here, me and Dumpy was trying to get him up in a chair to sit him up, but he was already dead.
Then there were those who did not lose their lives but lost everything else.
Well, this lady did when everything happened.
Wow.
I had the ceiling fall on my 4-year-old daughter.
And how did you feel hearing you're right on the water, hearing everything happening at once?
I had to bust this open and the window break so the water could have flowed straight. The water was catching me like up here inside the house. And right there, my kids was up in the ceiling right there.
Felt like when I saw it, it felt like I had a child died because that was everything I had. Nothing was left. That was everything we had.
And how long have you been living in the home?
For 42 years. I'm 44 and my mommy built that house when I was 2.
And it survived 40-some years. Is this something you've ever seen before?
No, I have never seen anything like this in my life.
And over in West End, Grand Bahama, it was much of the same as buildings were left a shell of their former selves. In fact, many of the residents we spoke to in West End, Grand Bahama, where the storm did its worst, said they believed Matthew's intensity surpassed Hurricanes Francis and Jean. We found Sherika Smith sitting outside her West End home, tears streaming down her face.
I grew up here, born and lived, and our little business over there, it's wiped away.
What kind of business do you
It was a cone, we used to sell the pickled cone and the cone salad and stuff, yeah. It's really,
anything like this before?
I did, but not as bad as this.
So you would say this has been for you guys worse than Francis and Jean?
Way worse, way worse.
Businessman Van Bowden lost both his laundromat and convenience store in the storm. He says the storm was the worst he had ever experienced.
Well, I was a little sad, but, you know, thank God there was no life loss, and I could always bring this back, you know, with some help.
And while there was immense loss and despair, there were tales of unity, specifically in North Andros, where officials say members of the reclusive Mennonite community were among the first to help clear up the debris. Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Prime Minister Perry Christie called Matthew's impact on the Bahamas devastating. And for that reason, he says he has assigned Labor and National Insurance Minister Shane Gibson to oversee the aftermath of Hurricane Matthew. Christie made the comments as he was wrapping up an assessment trip to Grand Bahama and Andros yesterday. He admitted the devastation goes beyond what NEMA can do.
I've indicated to the country that even if I have to relieve Minister Gibson of some of his portfolio responsibilities, he is going to be asked to dedicate himself to assisting nationwide the return of our country and the communities in our countries to normalcy, meaning being able to bring the relief, bring the help, to bring the guidance, be able to steer that together with the organized NEMA effort. But that this is now bigger than NEMA itself.
Christie says he's bringing in additional resources to help get the islands back to normal.
And that is why I've assigned a specific minister to be able to lead this charge.
Christie added the country's history in dealing with devastating storms shows more effort needs to be placed on preparedness.
Clearly, the government of the Bahamas must now set a budgetary allocation for hurricane preparedness, where every year we are able to look back and say, we did this on this particular island based on our experience with that island to better protect the island. This is something that no longer can we wait for hurricanes to have a conversation about.
Well, opposition leader Dr. Hubert Minnis is calling for several immediate steps to be taken in the wake of the devastation caused by Hurricane Matthew.
I thank God, and I will continue to thank God and the Bahamian people that we've suffered no death. I think that is, we're very appreciative of that, because lives are most important. I think we must now start to rebuild.
Minnis, who was also on that NEMA trip, says after viewing the devastation firsthand, he came to the conclusion that those steps should be taken to help rebuild the country and keep Bahamians safe. Minnis also says the government should declare all areas affected by the storm as disaster areas and immediately issue exigency orders to allow homes, its contents, vehicles and/or its parts which have been damaged or destroyed to be replaced duty and VAT-free. He said those orders should remain in place for at least 6 months. Minnis also encouraged all financial institutions to provide funding for replacement equipment or materials at reduced rates in these cases. But he says the most important thing is family and friends banding together to rebuild.
In rebuilding, communities must come together and assist also, and we must work together as one, as a team. I'm a very strong believer that God has created a perfect world, and in every family there's one or two who has succeeded and done very, very well. And I think it's the duty and the responsibility of that particular member to assist the other members of the family.
Minnis says he is confident once a bipartisan approach is taken, the process will become easier.
the opposition is also a part of the government. And therefore what happens in this country, the opposition must do their part. And when there's a devastation of this nature, the opposition must be a part of the government, of which they are, and must travel together, assessing, looking at what has been done, and ensuring that fair play is done for all Bahamians.
Minnis is also calling on the government to advise Bahamians not to drink their well water unless and until it has been properly tested. In a statement released this morning, Minnis warned those with a well water system that the water could have been contaminated by flooding. Minnis is also advising individuals whose homes or businesses have been severely damaged not to occupy the facilities until they are declared structurally sound. He also called on the government to immediately commence with fogging in areas that were flooded to prevent mosquito-borne diseases, including the Zika virus. When our news returns, how social media caused a panic in the aftermath of Hurricane Matthew. Stay with us.
Discover the life you've always wanted for you and your family, where ocean meets ocean lover. Palm Key. Experience new and exciting moments with those closest to you. Indulge yourself in tasty fresh food and fun-filled evenings. Be a part of a community where your friends are neighbors and neighbors are friends. Nestled on the southeastern tip of New Providence in the Bahamas. Turn ocean loving into ocean living. Your life is waiting for you at Palm Key.
You're not needy, but you do need an interest rate that's in your best interest. That's why Fidelity Bank's Debt Saver Loan has a built-in savings plan that pays 5% interest. Plus, you can decrease what you pay each month in loan and credit card payments by bundling your debt into one lower monthly payment. What are you waiting for? Get what you really need. Consolidate and save with Fidelity Bank. Fidelity, we're good for you.
I love cooking at KFC. I always hail everyone when I come to work. It's like a big family working in here. Cooking at KFC really changed my whole life. I like dancing when I cook. When I first started cooking at KFC, I said I was going to be one of the best. I like to see the smiles on the customers' faces as they enjoy the chicken I cooked.
Always hot, always fresh. KFC Nassau, it's finger licking good.
You're watching Our News. Welcome back. Social media played a big role with Hurricane Matthew, whether it was before, during, or after the storm. And while it served as a useful tool for updates, there were certain rumors which sent the capital into a panic. Kyle Joaquin reports.
With power, internet, and in many cases cable TV down, many in New Providence and some in the Family Islands turned to social media during the storm. Whether it was for updates or just to see the damage done, people were logged into Facebook, Twitter, and of course, WhatsApp to see the latest. One company that benefited from the use of social media was Bahamas Power and Light.
In the last couple of days, we've had about close to 20,000 people view our page. We wish it was more because that's where you're going to get your official information from. We give our information to the media, to you guys, and we provide it on Facebook because those are the information channels that are available on the island.
But while social media was a blessing to some also considered it a curse. Pictures like this one of a power company underwater. It went around on social media during the storm with people claiming it was BPL's Clifton Pier station. Well, it wasn't. And then there was the chain message about the island running out of gasoline. That sent people into a panic, swarming already packed gas stations, and today those lines still haven't died down. Ingram said in times like this, it's best to get your info from the correct source.
I know there's a lot of reporters out there nowadays, social media reporters, who want to give a different perspective, but we really think that people should pay attention to the official source of information so that they know what's going on and that's accurate in terms of what's happening on the island.
BPL did, however, sustain a lot of damage with roofs to its Clifton Pier administrative office and storage room damage and the destruction of its welding center. Now, just so you have an idea of how strong this storm surge was, take a look at this black tank sitting up there in the corner. Well, before Matthew rolled around, that tank was actually sitting in this concrete holder here. The storm surge went as far up as the main entrance of BPL, but according to the company's CEO, most of the damage is fixable. And despite the paranoia caused by social media in the aftermath of the storm, Ingram still dubs it a useful tool.
The power's out, your TV is off, your radios are off in some cases. You just aren't getting the information. But what has been good is that phone service has been good on the island. So we've been using data through the internet to provide information to our customers. So social media has been phenomenal for BPL in getting information out to our customers. And it's something that we see as critical as an entity to making sure that we keep our customers informed, not only in instances like this when we have natural disasters, but whatever information we'd like to communicate to our customers, having that channel available to us has been a great help to our operations.
Reporting for our news, I'm Kyle Joaquin.